Spending too much time on your episode prep can make it really difficult or impossible to maintain podcasting for the long run. Welcome to B2B On Air. I'm your host, Joseph Lewin, and in today's episode, I'm going to share with you 4 different methods for developing question sets, and 3 of those can really save you a lot of time. When you're approaching your podcast, you have to decide what your goals are, which we've talked about before, and then filter everything else that you do with your podcast through that. So you have to really figure out how much time you want to invest and how much time you can invest based on your goals. So if you want to have the top quality podcast, you need to spend as much time as possible prepping for the episode and making sure every little tiny piece is excellent so that you can hit growth goals and have the most entertaining show you possibly can. But there's a lot of other reasons to start a podcast other than growing the biggest audience possible or having on the biggest guests. And so there's some really good reasons to not spend so much time on the episodes. And the biggest one is just being able to maintain the podcast long enough to actually get a benefit from it. There are 4 methods for developing your question sets that we're going to cover today that can really help shave some of the time off of your prep. And those are the reusable question set, the quick research question set, the collaborative question set, and then finally doing a pre-interview with your guest. There's value in all of them, and I'm going to walk you through each one and when you would use it. My favorite one when you're starting out is the reusable question set. You could use the same exact questions or very, very, very similar questions, just phrased differently in your first 15 to 25 interviews and really get away with it because most of the guests you're going to have on are going to ask different things. So the reusable question set I like the most. We kind of covered it in the previous episode, but if you're just covering, overarching point of view, story, key takeaways, and then maybe you'll throw in a bonus of some interesting question that pulls the listener into the personality of the person you're having on, then that structure is something you can use every single time, and you just have the exact same questions. You lay them out every time, and you follow through on it. And then if you're having on guests that have different perspectives, every episode is going to be different from question 1. And then everybody has different stories, and they likely have different takeaways. And so if you follow that structure, every episode will end up being different. And then over time, you're going to get better at being able to phrase the question completely different, even though you're asking exactly the same thing. So when you're first starting off, I love this because you don't have to spend a lot of time. I mean, legitimately, you could spend 5 minutes prepping for an episode and roll into it. If you start here, then you maintain consistency over the long run, and then you can get into something that takes more time once you decide that you really want to go that route. So the second question set or type of question set that you can develop is doing quick research. Now with AI, this has become a lot easier. There's lots of different ways to do it, but quick question set, the quick research is you either go to their LinkedIn profile or you use one of the LLMs to do some deep research on that person, and you can pull out 3 to 5 questions that you want to ask based off of what you found. And then I like shooting those over the guests. I always encourage hosts to send the questions to the guests ahead of time because it just makes for a much better interview. You're letting them be prepared and you're not putting them on the spot with anything they're going to have difficulty answering. So with the quick question set, I like to send that over and just get a double check from them. The collaborative question set, you could send over some topic ideas to the guest and then have them send you over a few bullet points on what they want to cover. And then you can go ahead and outline those into questions. Now, you want to be careful with this one because at the end of the day, you don't want to put all of the work on the guest. But if it is somebody who has a very established point of view and certain frameworks, you probably do want to give them the opportunity to pull that out. So the collaborative question set is a great way to really make it about the guest, give them the chance to make sure they're covering everything they want to cover. And then you just create questions off of that tee them up for the things that are important to them. And then the final structure or the final method for developing your question set is the pre-interview. Now, I really like pre-interviews because it builds relationship with the guest and it's definitely the best way to get the highest quality conversation. Because basically what you're able to do is you're able to ask a lot of the same questions you would have asked in the interview and go but go much deeper with the guest in the pre-interview. And then you can summarize almost the entire conversation in the first 30 seconds of the podcast, and you can go way deeper with the guest and get much more interesting insights. Now, I haven't personally done pre-interviews in a really long time because it's extremely time consuming and it's hard to sustain that over the long run. And so even though the pre-interview is going to provide way better quality content and it's going to help you develop a much deeper relationship with the guest, doing a pre-interview is an entire extra meeting for every single podcast episode. And so if you're doing this weekly or more than weekly, it's really tough to make the pre-interview work. And if you're interviewing people that are very senior in their company, they might not want to take the time to do a pre-interview and an interview. They might not really give you the time for that anyway. So at the end of the day, you have to figure out what are your goals for the podcast? How much time do you actually have to invest in this in a way that's going to be sustainable? And then you can pick which one of these is going to help you reach your goals most effectively while maintaining consistency. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.